My name is Olivia, and I'm 45 years old. On paper, you'd think I had everything. A thriving law firm with my name etched on the door. A high-rise office in Midtown Manhattan. A beautiful, intelligent 15-year-old daughter named Lily. A husband, Mark, working in Dubai on a global tech contract. To the world, I was a success story. But the truth? I was holding it all together with tired hands and quiet prayers. I'd built my life from the ground up. No favors, no shortcuts. My firm wasn't inherited. It was earned through late nights, courtroom battles, and sacrifices most people never saw. When Mark was transferred to Dubai for a year, I stepped into single-parent mode like I always did, with determination and a smile. Lily became my shadow and my light. She had her father's calm and my fire. Smart, creative, and with a voice that could melt an auditorium when she sang. We had routines. Breakfast at 7:30. Laughs over cereal. School drop-offs. I'd leave for work afterward, checking my phone every few hours just to see if she'd texted something silly. We'd watch movies on weekends, jog in Central Park when the weather allowed. And every night, we called Mark together. Lily never missed a call. But what most people didn't know was the pressure I carried behind closed doors. My mother, Linda, and my younger sister, Julia, were the other part of my life. The hidden part. They depended on me financially. When my father died 5 years ago, he left behind more debt than security. Linda's polished lifestyle was built on illusion, and it collapsed overnight. I took over her rent, $1, $200 a month, because I couldn't stand the idea of her losing everything. Julia, on the other hand, had been struggling long before Dad passed. A single mom raising her son Max, juggling part-time jobs, and never quite standing on her own feet. I started sending her $800 a month to help with school fees and living costs. Every single month, $2,000 disappeared from my account, without fail. At first, I didn't think twice. I had the means. They needed help. It was the right thing to do. But slowly, something changed. Their calls weren't grateful. They were demanding. The requests became expectations. The expectations became pressure. And then came the guilt. You have more than enough, Olivia. Your daughter's private school must cost more than what we ask. Don't forget who raised you. It wasn't help anymore. It was obligation laced with manipulation. I started noticing things. Linda posting photos from brunches at rooftop cafes. Julia showing off designer handbags on Instagram. Max with brand new sneakers that cost more than my entire week's groceries. Meanwhile, I was calculating how much I could put into Lily's college fund. My husband had sensed the shift too. During one of our calls, he said gently, "Liv, I know you want to help them, but don't lose yourself in the process." He was right, but I wasn't ready to face what that meant. Because deep down, I was scared that if I pulled back, I'd look like the selfish one. That I'd be blamed, judged, cut off. So I kept paying. I kept pretending. Until the day I stopped, and everything changed. It started like any other busy morning. I had back-to-back meetings, case files stacked a foot high, and a high-profile trial awaiting me in Philadelphia. 2 days out of town. That's all it was supposed to be. Lily was finishing her breakfast when I walked into the kitchen. She was humming a song she'd been practicing for choir, her hair pulled into a neat ponytail, her eyes still soft with sleep. My heart tightened watching her, 15, smart, sensitive, and growing up faster than I could process. "You'll be okay at Grandma's, right?" I asked, placing a travel mug of coffee on the counter. She hesitated. That hesitation, just 2 seconds of silence, should have told me everything. But she smiled. "Yeah. It's only for 2 nights. I'll keep to myself." Keep to herself. That's how she coped. Mark wasn't in the picture physically. He was still in Dubai, finishing a year-long contract that paid too well to refuse. We video called every night, and Lily never let him see how much she missed him. She always saved that part for me, late at night after the screen went dark. I grabbed my coat and briefcase as Brooke, my assistant, buzzed in. "Your car to the airport is downstairs. Do you want me to confirm your 3 p.m. deposition?" "No," I said. "Let the opposing counsel know I'll need to move it to Friday." I need to handle this trial properly.
She paused.
Also, your mother called again.
Twice.
No message. Of course. Thanks, Brooke. Just ignore it for now. Linda hadn't called to wish me luck.
She never did.
When the phone rang from her, it only meant one thing: money. As Lily and I stood near the front door, I bent down to adjust her coat collar and kissed her forehead. If anything feels off, I whispered, you call me. Right away.
You don't wait.
I know, Mom, she said softly. I will. I held her tighter than usual before she left. My gut told me something wasn't right. I just couldn't name it yet. On the drive to the airport, I received the first text. Olivia, call me, it's urgent. Then another. Max's school trip has a deadline today. They need $600. Please don't ignore me. And then, you're being unfair. I was sitting in the airport lounge when the third message came in. I hadn't even boarded yet. I sighed, locked the phone, and stared at the departure screen. I'd already sent them $2,000 just 5 days ago, as I had for the past 3 years. Without fail, without gratitude, without boundaries. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I dialed her number. She picked up on the first ring. Finally. Mom, I can't send any more money right now, I said calmly. I've already done more than I can reasonably afford. Her tone turned sharp instantly. So now you're counting dollars with your own family? You can fly first class and pay for Lily's private school, but you can't help your nephew go on a school trip? I've already sent $2,000 this month, I said. And Max doesn't need a trip. He needs structure. There was a beat of silence. And then came the venom. You've always looked down on us. You think just because you wear expensive heels and have your name on an office door, you're better than the rest of us. I blinked. Not with shock, but with clarity. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about control. And I wasn't willing to hand it over anymore. I'm done, Mom, I said. With the guilt. With the manipulation. I love you, but this is the last time we're having this conversation. Before she could respond, I ended the call. I boarded the plane with shaking hands, not because I was scared, but because I knew I'd just done something irreversible. I had no idea how far she would go to punish me for saying no. The trial was going well. I should have been focused. My client, a small real estate firm, was being bullied by a massive construction company. The kind of case I took personally. I had spent weeks gathering evidence, building a strategy, preparing my opening. And by noon, I was already 2 steps ahead of the opposition. But my mind wasn't in that courtroom. It was still back in New York with Lily. I kept glancing at my phone, which I'd placed face down beside my files. She hadn't texted me all morning, which wasn't like her. Lily always sent updates. Even a "I'm bored" or "Max is being weird" would have been normal. But nothing? During the lunch break, I stepped out into the hallway to check again. Still no messages. Then suddenly, it rang. Caller ID, Lily. Relief rushed through me as I answered. Hey, sweetheart. I was just thinking about you. But what I heard wasn't her usual voice. It was breathless, unsteady, frightened. Mom, she got mad. Really mad. She pulled my hair and then slapped me hard. I fell and hit my arm. It's bleeding, Mom. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. For a moment, I couldn't move. My body went numb. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear my own thoughts. I gripped the phone tighter.
Lily.
Listen to me. Where are you right now? I'm still in the living room. Grandma's in the kitchen. Max just ran upstairs. I don't think he cares. Okay. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. I'm calling the police right now. They're coming to get you. Please hurry, she whispered. It really hurts. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't fall apart now. I ended the call and immediately dialed 911. This is Olivia. My 15-year-old daughter is at her grandmother's house and has just been physically assaulted. Hair pulled, slapped in the face, fell on the ground. She's injured and scared. The dispatcher stayed calm, but I could hear them typing furiously. Units are being dispatched to the location. Do you have anyone else there who can reach her?
No.
No one. That's why I need you to get there fast. They promised they would. Next, I called Brooke. I need a flight back to New York. As soon as possible, I said, shaking. Also, start preparing the legal documents, restraining order, emergency custody block, everything. And stop all financial transfers to my mother and sister. Today. I'll handle it, she said without hesitation. Then I called Lily back. She answered immediately. Sweetheart, the police are on their way. Paramedics too. I'm coming home. I'll be there as soon as I can. She started to cry softly. She said it was because you didn't send the money, that it was your fault she had to teach me a lesson. I closed my eyes. This wasn't a tantrum. This was punishment. A calculated attack. Because I said no. And she used my daughter to send her message. 40 minutes later, Officer Davis called me personally. Miss Olivia, your daughter is safe. We've taken her to the nearest hospital. She has a bruised cheek, a sprained elbow, and a superficial cut on her arm. Emotionally, she's shaken. And Linda? I asked, my voice low and cold. We've arrested her for physical assault on a minor. Julia and Max were present, but neither intervened. Your daughter's account and the visible injuries line up. We'll need you to sign the formal complaint when you arrive. I'll be there as soon as I land. As I hung up, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of what came next. Because now it was about Lily. By the time my plane touched down in New York, it was nearly midnight. I didn't bother waiting for my luggage. I had Brooke send someone for it later. Right now, I only had one destination, the hospital where my daughter was being treated for injuries caused by my own mother. The back seat of the car ride felt too quiet. Every red light, every pause in traffic made me want to scream. I was a woman used to controlling chaos in a courtroom, but this wasn't a trial. This was personal.
Raw.
When we reached the emergency entrance, Officer Davis met me just inside the glass doors. He gave me a small nod of respect, but I could see the weight in his eyes. She's stable, he said gently. Doctors treated the bruising and the elbow. No fractures, thankfully. But the emotional trauma? It's going to take some time. I nodded, swallowing hard. Where is she? Room 207. We assigned a nurse to stay with her until you arrived. I thanked him and rushed down the corridor. When I opened the door, the world seemed to pause. There's my daughter, my Lily, curled up in the corner of a hospital bed, her arm in a sling, a soft bandage on her cheek. Her eyes were half closed, but when she saw me, she sat up like she'd been holding her breath the entire time. Mom, I rushed to her side and held her like I'd never let go again. She clung to me, trembling. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even say anything to her. She grabbed me and started yelling. Then she pulled my hair and slapped me so hard I hit the floor. I think Max saw, but he didn't care. I closed my eyes, steadying myself. You did exactly what you were supposed to do, I whispered. You called me, and now you're safe. That's all that matters. We sat like that for a while, her head on my chest, my arms wrapped around her like armor. Then there was a gentle knock on the door. A woman in her mid-40s stepped in with a calm, kind presence. Dr. Kim, she said with a soft smile. I'm the on-call therapist assigned to Lily's case. I'd like to speak with her for a few minutes, if that's all right. I looked to Lily, who nodded quietly. I stepped into the hallway and stood by the window, arms folded, my mind racing. And then I did what I had been dreading all day. I called Mark. He answered on the second ring, his voice laced with exhaustion. Hey, Liv. How'd the trial? I'm at the hospital, I interrupted. He sat up. I could hear it in the shift of his voice. What happened? I took a deep breath, then told him everything. The screaming.
The slap.
The fall. The bruises. The fear. And finally, the arrest. There was silence on his end. The kind of silence that carries the weight of 1,000 emotions. I'm flying home, he said firmly. Tomorrow. First flight I can get. I didn't call to pull you away, I replied softly. I don't care, he said. I wasn't there when it happened. but I'll be there now. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. Lily's okay, but she needs both of us now. We hung up with a mutual promise. No more distance.
Not now.
Not after this. The next morning, Lily was discharged. She walked slowly, her arms still sore, but she held my hand the entire way out of the hospital. We didn't talk much in the car. She stared out the window, and I knew her silence wasn't anger. It was shock. The kind of quiet that settles after you've been hurt by someone you thought you could trust. When we reached home, I helped her into bed, pulled the covers over her, and kissed her forehead. "I'll be in the next room," I whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." Just as I turned to leave, she asked in a small voice, "Mom, is she going to hurt someone else now?" I turned back.
No.
She won't hurt anyone again, because I was going to make sure of it. The house was quiet the next morning, but not peaceful. Lily was still asleep upstairs. I had barely slept at all. I spent the early hours replaying everything, every bruise I'd seen, every word Lily had whispered between sobs. By sunrise, I was dressed, coffee in hand, standing in my home office with police reports spread across the desk. The stillness of the room was a stark contrast to the storm inside me. At exactly 7:15 a.m., Thomas, my firm's senior legal consultant and longtime friend, walked through the front door. I didn't wait to meet at the office. I wanted this started now. He sat down without saying much. He knew me well enough to skip the small talk. I handed him the folder. Hospital report. Photos of the injuries. Security footage from the building hallway. And the voice recording from the 911 call. I said, "It's all there." He skimmed through it, his brow tightening. "This isn't just a case," he said. "This is textbook child endangerment and assault. And I want her prosecuted to the full extent of the law," I said without flinching. "No plea deal. No family settlement. She doesn't get to walk away from this." He nodded. "We'll file for a permanent restraining order, full child abuse charges, and also move to terminate all financial obligations, past and future." "Already frozen the accounts," I added. "Brooke locked everything down the minute Lily was in the hospital." "She's smart," Thomas said. "She's loyal," I corrected. Just then Brooke called. I put her on speaker. "Julia just attempted a transfer request through the backup account." I denied it. "She also left 3 voicemails, and your mother called 12 times overnight." "I don't want to hear a single one of them," I said. "Just document every call, every message." "You got it." The phone buzzed again. This time it was a message on an old social media account I hadn't touched in years. It was from Linda. "Why would you call the police? Lily wasn't in real danger. It was just a lesson. You overreacted." I read it once, and then again. My jaw clenched. My chest tightened. A lesson? She had hit my daughter, pulled her by the hair,
Knocked her to the ground.
and she dared to call that discipline? Thomas glanced over and gently removed the phone from my hand. "Don't respond," he said. "We let the courts respond for you now." And that was it. Something in me snapped, but not in anger. In clarity. This woman wasn't my mother anymore. Later that afternoon, I picked Lily up from school. She walked slowly, arms still stiff in the sling, but when she saw me waiting, her face lit up. She opened the car door and got in quietly. I handed her a bottle of water. "I had a good day," she said after a few minutes. "My teachers didn't ask questions, just said they were glad I was okay." I nodded. "I spoke with Dr. Kim. She wants to keep the weekly sessions going." Lily was quiet for a second, then said, "I want that too." There was a maturity in her voice I hadn't heard before. When we pulled into the driveway, she turned to me and asked, "Did you really cut them off? Grandma and Aunt Julia?" I looked her straight in the eyes.
Yes. Completely.
No more calls. No more money. No more control. She leaned back in her seat, exhaled, and gave a soft smile. It was the kind of smile that said, "I finally feel safe." And for the first time in years, I felt safe too. 2 days later, Mark arrived from Dubai. I met him at the airport with Lily standing beside me, her arms still in a sling but her eyes brighter than they had been in days. When Mark stepped through the arrivals gate, Lily ran first, dropping her backpack and launching into his arms like the world was finally back in place. He hugged her tightly, eyes wet, heart full. Then he looked at me over her shoulder and mouthed, "I'm so sorry." I shook my head and whispered back, "You're here now. That's all that matters." The three of us drove home in silence, but not the heavy kind. It was the kind of silence you share when you're simply grateful to be together again. That evening, Lily sat at the piano and played softly while Mark and I made dinner. Her fingers hesitated at first, but then came the melody she'd been practicing before everything happened. Her voice joined in a few lines later, gentle, steady. She was healing. And so were we. The next morning we filed everything. Formal charges against Linda for child abuse and physical assault on a minor. A no-contact restraining order. A petition to revoke any claim to future support or guardianship. We had all the evidence. The hospital report. Photos of Lily's injuries. The recorded 911 call. Security camera footage from the building hallway. And, perhaps most damning, the message from Linda herself. It was just a lesson. The court date arrived faster than I expected. Linda appeared calm, almost smug, in a plain gray sweater and minimal makeup. Julia sat behind her, arms crossed, eyes darting. They had hired a cheap lawyer, someone who barely glanced at me across the aisle. Our side was solid. Thomas stood beside me, Mark behind me. Lily sat outside with Brooke, away from the pressure. When it was time to speak, I stood and gave my statement. This isn't about a family disagreement. This is about a woman who thought it was acceptable to use violence to regain control. She used my child to punish me for saying no. That's not parenting. That's abuse. The judge didn't need long. This court finds Linda guilty of assault on a minor and child endangerment, he ruled. She is sentenced to 4 years in state prison with no eligibility for early parole. A permanent no-contact order will be enforced immediately. I didn't celebrate. I didn't cry either. I just turned and walked out of the courtroom, Mark's hand in mine. Over the next few weeks, our lives slowly began to settle, like dust after a storm. Lily went back to school full-time. At first, I noticed the little things, the way she kept her arm close to her side in the hallways, how she hesitated before answering questions in class. But slowly, those signs faded. She started speaking up more, smiling more. She didn't jump anymore when the phone rang, or glance nervously at every unfamiliar knock on the door. Her appetite returned. Her sleep deepened. Dr. Kim told us Lily was making remarkable progress in therapy. She's not just coping, she said. She's recovering. And it showed. We replaced anxiety with routine, trauma with warmth. Our house didn't echo with fear anymore. It hummed gently with music, quiet jokes over dinner, and peace we didn't take for granted. One Thursday afternoon, Lily burst into my home office, her cheeks pink with excitement and a crumpled sheet of paper in her hand. "Mom," she beamed. "Guess what?" Before I could answer, she waved the paper in the air. My teacher picked my painting for the school art exhibition. She handed me the printout, her acceptance form, and then pulled up a photo on her phone. It was her watercolor entry, a towering lighthouse on the edge of a stormy sea. Fierce waves crashed against the rocks, but the lighthouse stood tall, bright and still. "It's you," she said softly now. "You're the lighthouse." I stared at the image, stunned. The symbolism, the emotion, it said everything she didn't always have the words for. For a moment, I had to turn away, pretending to adjust a file on my desk, just so she wouldn't see the tears in my eyes. "You're the strongest thing I know," she added. "You always kept the light on, even when everything else went dark." That was the moment I knew we weren't just surviving. We were rising. A few days later, a plain white envelope showed up in our mailbox. No return address. But I knew the handwriting instantly. Linda. I opened it slowly, more curious than anything else. "I won't ask for forgiveness anymore. I just hope you and Lily are doing well." That was it. No apology. No ownership. Just a quiet admission of loss. I read it once. Then I walked to the shredder, fed the paper through, and watched it disappear, strip by strip. Forgiveness? Maybe one day. But trust? That bridge had burned. These days, our home sounds different. It's filled with music, Lily singing in her room, humming while doing homework. It's filled with laughter, Mark making awkward jokes at dinner that still make us laugh way too hard. It's filled with life, calm, steady, and ours. Mark took a permanent position here in New York.
He's home by 6.
We cook together. We clean together. We hold each other accountable, and we hold each other close. Lily doesn't sleep with her door cracked open anymore. She laughs at the breakfast table. She hugs without flinching. She walks with her head high. We don't mention Linda or Julia. Not because it hurts, but because it simply doesn't matter anymore. That part of our story is over.
We chose peace.
We chose healing. We chose each other. And most importantly, we chose to never, ever live in fear again. If this story moved you, inspired you, or simply made you feel something real, please take a moment to like the video. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever faced a moment where choosing peace meant walking away from people you once called family? And if you enjoy powerful, true-feeling stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next. Thank you for watching, and remember, you deserve peace. You deserve safety. You deserve to be free from fear.